rain drummed against the window pane, a steady rhythm that filled the empty house with an eerie lullaby. Meredith sat curled in the worn-out armchair, the dim glow of the fireplace casting flickering shadows across the room. She pulled the heavy woolen blanket tighter around her shoulders, but it did little to chase away the cold gnawing at her bones. It was always cold in this house, no matter how many logs she burned, no matter how many layers she wore. It was her grandmother's house. Had been, rather. The old woman had died 6 months ago, leaving Meredith a decaying estate on the outskirts of town. It was meant to be a fresh start, a place to rebuild her life after everything had fallen apart. But from the moment she stepped over the threshold, she felt it, the heavy, suffocating presence of something unseen, something ancient. At first, she chalked it up to grief. Her grandmother had practically raised her, and the loss cut deep. She ignored the whispers in the hallways, the sensation of being watched when she was alone, the way the rocking chair in the upstairs bedroom creaked in the dead of night. Old houses made noise, she reasoned. Old houses held memories. But then the dream started. Every night, the same nightmare. She stood at the top of the staircase, staring down into the darkness below. A voice, hollow and rasping, called her name from the abyss. The walls around her seemed to breathe, the wallpaper rippling like living flesh. And then came the hands, bony fingers clawing at her ankles, dragging her down into the yawning blackness. She always woke up before she hit the bottom, gasping for breath, drenched in cold sweat. Meredith tried to ignore it, tried to rationalize it away, but the house would not let her. The shadows lengthened even in daylight, stretching unnaturally across the wooden floors. The whispers grew louder, echoing through the empty hallways. Objects moved when she wasn't looking. A chair slightly askew, a book fallen from the shelf, a door left ajar when she was sure she had closed it. And then, one night, she saw her. Meredith had been lying in bed, drifting on the edge of sleep, when the sensation of being watched became unbearable. Her eyes snapped open, heart hammering in her chest. The room was pitch black, but she could feel something there, lurking just beyond her vision. Slowly, she turned her head toward the doorway. A figure stood in the shadows. She was tall and gaunt, her skin stretched too tightly over sharp bones. Her eyes, black pits of endless void, bored into Meredith's soul. The woman's mouth curled into a grotesque grin, teeth too white, too sharp. "You shouldn't be here," the thing whispered, its voice like dry leaves scraping against stone. Meredith couldn't move, couldn't scream. She could only watch in horror as the figure stepped closer, the floorboards creaking beneath its bare feet. A skeletal hand reached out, fingers twitching. And then, just as suddenly as it appeared, it was gone. Meredith bolted from the bed, fumbling for the light switch, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The room was empty. The house was silent. But the air felt heavier, charged with something dark and hungry. She had to get out. Shaking, she grabbed her coat and keys, ignoring the way the walls seemed to shudder as she passed. The hallway stretched impossibly long, the front door miles away. The whisper slithered around her, weaving in and out of her thoughts. She reached for the doorknob. Cold hands wrapped around her wrists. Meredith screamed, twisting away, but the grip tightened, yanking her backward. The house groaned, the walls closing in around her. Shadows surged forward, wrapping around her limbs, pulling her into the darkness. The last thing she saw was a woman's face, grinning wide, eyes gleaming with something ancient and insatiable. And then there was nothing but the dark.